I never thought I'd see the day that I had all four major intelligence services agree on something, particularly about the Chinese Communist Party. Can you walk through what you guys have delivered?
You bet. I think it's such an important moment. And it's a reminder that those legacy media reporters that every day live in their ivory tower telling us that they're the guardians of truth have actually been a naval blockade against the truth. You look at the coverage after the president's historic speech 2 weeks ago, and you saw things like there's no non-citizens really voting in elections. And the New Jersey governor comes out a couple days later, 6,600 registered, 400 did, and we've known about it for a while. And they came out and said China didn't interfere in the 2020 election. And what the chiefs say in this statement today is that the assessments in 2020 may have said that, but it didn't include the information that we knew at the time that China had targeted our voter registration data files, meaning 220 million of them is what they acquired through. Some of them were purchased lawfully, some of them were stolen, and some of them were hacked. What the chiefs say today is the targeting of those files constitutes an act of election interference under the definition of the intelligence community. The intelligence community has very specific definitions, but targeting voter files is considered an act of election interference. So the reporters relied on the 2020 analyses, even though the president provided evidence in this speech 2 weeks ago that analysis was hijacked by people who didn't want the truth to come out. And the intelligence chiefs came out today and said, hey, if this had been put in there, the inference of their statement today is if we had acknowledged that we had this data and we knew that China was stealing, hacking, and buying voter files, that in fact it would have been considered an act of election interference, and it is so now. That is an amazing knockdown of the media. And then there's one other piece of it that I think is important, because the media went on right after the speech and no big deal. All China got were the commercially available files that anyone could buy. And the chiefs today say no, to the contrary. As we tell you, these were hacked and stolen, and they include non-public data. In other words, they're not the commercial files. They have data that only can be gotten through illicit means. Those three knockdowns are a direct response to a media that has been dishonest about the president's speech and the documents, and they're very helpful to the American public. They help the American public understand what the intelligence community currently thinks about the body of evidence. The final statement, also for those who suggested that President Trump was relitigating the 2020 election or hijacking the truth, the four spy chiefs made it very clear in their final bullet point of their fact sheet that the language that the president used about all the documents they personally approved as accurate. Today was a pretty big bitch slap of the mainstream media. It was really knocked down by the intelligence chiefs, and bravo for the intelligence chiefs for helping the American people get the truth around the mainstream media.